Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
This is Christopher Kimball from Milk Street Radio. Our show covers everything and anything in the world of food, and this holiday season, we're exploring a Welsh tradition that involves
horses' skulls, toffee making, strange Celtic folklore.
We go to Belgium for a lesson on gingerbread and waffles.
It always frustrates me because there is no Belgian waffle. We have thick waffles, thin waffles, brittle waffles, soft waffles. I mean, there's a waffle for every occasion, basically.
And we learn about hot drinks with names like
Huggle My Buff or Huckle My Butt.
Join us for recipes and stories this holiday season on Milk Street Radio, wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hello, happy almost new year, and welcome to episode number 595 of Smart Podcast Trashy Books. I'm Sarah Wendell, and with me today are Amanda and GarlicKnitter and Alanna and Claudia. We are traveling around the world with book recommendations and good wishes and wonderfully terrible jokes. Which is really the reason everyone's here, right? Of course. I will have links to, of course, all of the books that we talk about in this episode in the show notes at smartbitchestrashybooks.com/podcast under episode number 595. Wow, we're getting close to 600. My goodness. I have a compliment this week, and that gives me so much joy. To Molly L. You are the human personification of a perfectly baked cookie. In fact, you are the human personification of the perfect cookie table with every kind of cookie, all baked perfectly. And if you've been to a wedding in the Pittsburgh area, you know what a cookie table is. In other words, Molly L., you rule. If you've supported the show, thank you. Our Patreon keeps me going, keeps me happily commissioning transcripts from GarlicKnitter. Hi, GarlicKnitter. And you're making sure that the show continues for everyone. And it's accessible to everybody, too. You can have a look at patreon.com/smartbitches. Monthly pledges start at $1. And if you are a member of the Patreon, you get bonus episodes, a Discord, access to the full PDF scans of the Romantic Times magazine, which is a wild, extremely weird experiment in time travel. And it would be lovely to have you join us. I want to say hello to YM, who's one of our newest members. Welcome. And I think in order to get closer to 600 at this very moment, we should start the episode. Shall we do that? Let's do this. On with the podcast. So everyone knows who you are, but you get to introduce yourself and tell the people who are listening who you are and where you are in the world.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda. I am part of the site Smart Bitches Trashy Books for what? We had 11 years now?
11 years now. Yep.
11 years I've been part of the site, which is wild.
Co-pilot, mastermind, yeah.
Yeah, if you spend a lot of money because of books on sale, that's my fault, and I will not apologize for it.
Sounds good. All right. So what is a book that you really, really enjoyed this year?
So it's one that I didn't wind up reviewing, and I will explain why. But it's You Again by Kate Goldbeck. It was a debut. And it was a contemporary romance. It came out in September, I believe. I just thought it was a really lovely contemporary and went through a really good progression of people meeting for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I don't like Friends to Lovers. That's not my jam.
No, you don't.
No, but there is an element of Friends to Lovers. And I think I've sort of identifying the flavor of Friends to Lovers that I don't like. And that's like, we've been friends for years, but we can't date because of reasons. I don't like that. But in this book, the main characters are sleeping with the same woman. And so they start at odds with each other. And then the woman stops seeing both of them. And they kind of like build a friendship over that like really weird circumstance.
Okay.
And it's just very sweet. And so we see like a progression of like how they initially meet, like what brings them together, and then how things progress. And then the the heroine is a comedian. And I feel like that's the first time I've read a romance with a heroine who's a comedian. And I just thought it was really lovely. There's really great descriptions of like mental health issues and like, career stuff of like, hey, where am I going with this? The hero is a chef. And I thought it was really good. I didn't review it because one, I find books that I've enjoyed really hard to review.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know as a reader, if I read a review, like I think I would have given this an A grade. But I know for me as a reader, if I'm reading a review that's nothing but positive, I'm suspicious. And
You're allergic to hype.
And I don't trust it because I'm like, there's always got to be something bad. And I find those really hard to write because I don't want, I don't know, like the outward squeeing of a book.
Mm-hmm.
Is not something I don't know if I've ever written a squee grade. I might have written like a squee from the keeper shelf where it's like a nostalgic book. But I can't remember if I've ever written a squee grade book just because I'm always like, there's always something.
So you wouldn't be able to write the review because you'd be allergic to your own hype.
Yes, I'm like, do I really feel this way? Is this really that good? And then like, as Sarah knows, like, I just started being more consistent about writing reviews in like the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and you're a good reviewer.
I've been hitting deadlines. I've been finishing books. So that's good. But like that hasn't happened for a while where like my reading brain and my writing brain are really aligning to where I feel like I can get stuff done. So yeah, I really liked it. It was a really great debut. Maybe I'll, rustle things up and write something, even if it's just a lightning review for it. Of like
an LR would be great.
But yeah, that was my favorite book, and it was like a surprise because I haven't been gravitating towards contemporaries a lot lately. Because I get frustrated with them, and honestly, don't feel like being in a contemporary setting right now.
No. Don't feel like being in a contemporary setting, and am bored of books where the character's job is their personality.
Yeah.
That's very dull. I am not interested.
And then I feel like I know I'm overly critical of contemporaries where I'm like, real people aren't like this. A person would never say this. Or I'm just like tired of like twee characters who are just like tripping over everything and spilling things on people and just like, I don't know. I'm like, get it together. See a therapist. Like,
and slapstick is very, I think that I suspect that one of the things that happens is in order for a book to be positioned or marketed as a rom-com, comedy is added, or it's added in a way that isn't organic. And so it becomes slapstick and it's not integrated into the story in a way that's like comfortable. Like there are some contemporary romances that I have read that have cracked me up and I will still laugh thinking about them. But it wasn't because of pratfalls and slapstick and secondhand embarrassment. It's never that for me. Oh, you've known. Thank you.
I feel like contemporaries right now skew one way or the other, where they're just like kooky slapstick comedies, which aren't my thing, or like really over the top melodramatic stuff. And I like some angst, but I'm not looking for melodrama right now.
Yeah.
And this kind of like was situated right in the middle, and it didn't really skew one way or the other to me. And it just like, it felt like I was reading about pretty normal people that I feel like would exist in the real world and not like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. Not some fantasy weird contemporary world that is kind of scary for its homogeny. Yeah, I agree.
And I thought the cover was cute. It's very fall. I'm going to go look at it again. I can't go back. It's very fall. And just like, it's two people hanging out, probably in Central Park, with these gorgeous leaves. But I really liked it. So that's probably the book I would choose to put on everyone's radar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What are your holiday wishes for people who will be listening?
Okay. So I can't remember what I wished last time. Was it do something scary? I think that's what my wish was
I
last
think it
time.
was.
Tangentially related to do something scary. Because when I said do something scary, I think it was more like external, like take that class, travel to that place. And now I wanted to be like, do something scary internally. Be a vulnerable person.
Ooh.
That is my lesson for this year, is to be a vulnerable person. And I might get emotional because I grew up in a terrible household.
Am familiar with both your
Yeah.
terrible household and mine.
I grew up in a terrible household with a narcissistic parent, and really had to grow up and harden myself and become independent at a very early age.
Mhm.
I am the eldest sibling. I only have one other sibling, but I am the older one. I had to take care of my brother for a period of time. And so like it really hardened me as a person in terms of communicating to people and in terms of receiving love and communication. I was like a brick wall. And through therapy and through meeting my current partner, who is a sensitive person, and it's taken a while for me to unlearn that sensitivity is not a negative connotation. Being sensitive isn't bad. And so, like, through talking with Brian and learning that, like, I can be a bit harsh in my communication and I don't have to, like, be a brick wall. Like, conflict resolution isn't about winning. It's about finding the best result for both people or all parties. And so that was a lesson I had to unlearn of like, Brian's not going to hurt me in this conversation. I don't have to be defensive. I don't have to hurt them before they hurt me because that's not going to happen. So through therapy and like meeting a person who's also in therapy, shout out to our therapists. It's really helped me learn to be a more sensitive and vulnerable person with people who I've collected in my life. Ooh, I'm gonna cry, Sarah. Who I can trust with these things. And I think trust is very big, and I know it's very hard. But I promise that there's a net positive to vulnerability, and it is scary and it is frightening. But I think the returns and what I've gotten from being vulnerable to people and with people have really enriched my life, especially this year.
I'm so glad. And I'm so glad that you are living in a relationship that is safe.
Yeah, it feels great. Like I don't feel judged. It's such a great feeling not to feel judged and to feel safe to communicate your feelings with friends. Family is not a factor.
Sometimes family is not deserving of hearing your feelings.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are not on that level.
Yeah, but in the personal relationships you may choose to cultivate, I hope you give yourself a chance and the grace to be vulnerable, and also fuck up that vulnerability sometimes. It is a muscle you have to learn to flex.
It is.
So
it is very true. Very true.
And I hope everyone gets a chance to flex those muscles next year.
Flex those vulnerability, squishy, flabby muscles.
Squishy, flabby muscles.
Those little
They'll get
noodle
stronger.
muscles.
The noodle muscles. That's my holiday wish.
That's a lovely holiday wish. I'm very happy for you.
You too.
Did you bring a joke?
I did. And I don't remember if I've ever told this one.
That's okay.
But it's one that I've remembered for most of my life. I can't remember the first time I heard this one. Probably like 8 or 9. And I still think it's one of the funniest jokes I've ever heard in my life. Because it's a little gross. I love a potty humor. So my joke is, Sarah, if you're an American outside of the bathroom, what are you called inside?
What?
European. That is one of my all-time favorite jokes, and I've remembered it for decades.
So when you go in the bathroom somewhere, you're like, I'm European now.
I'm European now.
Well, thank you And thank you
You're
for
welcome.
another good year.
Yeah, this one was good.
Yeah.
No notes.
All right. That's the best thing you can say about a year. Ready to
Yeah.
move on? No notes.
Yeah, no notes.
Hi, I'm Chris Johnson, and at least 5,000 listeners just said, "Oh, I know a Chris Johnson," which is why when I'm online, I tend to use GarlicKnitter because that's searchable, and Chris Johnson is not. And I live in the garlic capital of the world, the one in California.
Hence the name GarlicKnitter.
Yes, and I have a certain hobby. Well, more than hobby at this point. I also knit professionally.
Do you knit garlic?
No, not so far. I actually do have a pattern for a stuffed garlic, head of garlic, which I have not knit, but I should, and then use it as my icon.
So most people will know you as the person who transcribes every episode. Thank you for that, by the way.
Thank you for hiring me. It is still my favorite gig.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I am so excited to have you on the podcast, although I'm sure transcribing yourself would be a bit weird.
Yes, I think so.
Would you tell me about a book that you really enjoyed this year?
Yes, I have several.
Woo, excellent.
Okay, I'm going to start with, I just finished A Nobleman's Guide to Seducing a Scoundrel by K.J. Charles. And earlier this year, I read The Secret Lives of Country Gentlemen, which is the first book in that series. And those were so much fun and yet also so touching. Sometimes romance books that are super fun they don't feel as emotionally deep, but these are both, in my opinion.
Yes.
So these are all actually parts of series. I'm currently reading Paladin's Faith by T. Kingfisher, who is one of my favorite authors for many of her books, although I read one of the horror novels and I said, okay, that was really good. And I'm going to probably stay away from the rest of the horror work because I like sleeping. You know, the one I read I think it was The Hollow Places. And there was a lot about, trees clicking against themselves, if I remember the correct one.
Mm-hmm.
And I live in a rural area and we have trees that do that sort of thing. They blow around in the night and they rub against each other. And I don't need to think that no. So all of the books that are set in the world of the Temple of the White Rat, I love all of those. Next on my list of things I want to read is Bookshops and Bone Dust, which I have checked out of the library by Tara Vess Baldry. I read Legends and Lattes earlier this year, and it was exactly what it said on the tin. It was slow angst and wonderful things happened. And I love the end when they found out what the magical item actually did, because it was just perfect.
I think of that series as specifically tea cozy fantasy. It's not just cozy fantasy. It's cozy fantasy wearing a tea cozy.
Yes. And or drinking tea.
Yeah.
A lot of tea cozies would probably make extremely fetching hats.
It's true. It's very true. So what holiday wishes do you have for the people who will be listening and for your future self who will be transcribing this?
My holiday wish for everyone everywhere is good knowledge in two ways. First of all, knowledge that is accurate, factual, true, verifiable, however you want to describe it. Knowledge that is actually real knowledge. Because with real knowledge, you can make better decisions.
Yeah.
Not always great decisions because sometimes there's not great choices, but the more good knowledge you have, the more better decisions you can make. And I live for that. But also good in the sense of interesting or useful or fun, pleasant in some way. That I hope that all the good knowledge that we take in, at least half of it turns out to be fun, good knowledge or otherwise pleasurable.
Yeah.
With the rise of artificial intelligence, as they're calling it, I don't think we have achieved true artificial intelligence yet, but the language learning models and so forth, those are going to be fucking us up for at least the next several years and probably longer, because we've got this internet and it is full of knowledge, but increasingly it is going to be full of false knowledge. And one of the things we're going to have to learn is how to tell the true from the false.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true.
Yeah. So that's why I'm wishing everybody good knowledge that, that most of what they see is true. And that if it isn't, that they can learn to see when it's not true.
Yeah.
And put it to good use.
Yeah. That's a really good wish. Did you bring a joke?
I brought an old joke.
Ooh.
It's old, but I still think it's so cute. Why don't cannibals like to eat clowns?
Why don't cannibals like to eat clowns?
Because
Why?
it's funny.
I was really thinking about that too. Like, because they taste funny.
That's
well played. Well played.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you again for asking me and for doing this every year. These are some of the episodes I enjoy transcribing the most. So thank you to everybody who participates in this too.
Oh, thank you so very, very much. And have a wonderful, happy holiday to you and yours.
Likewise to you and yours.
I am Alanna. I also go by JF Hobbit or Hobbit. I am a Californian, but am currently residing in Germany in the Rhineland.
Which is a little different.
Just a tad. Winter is an experience that I haven't really fully had, but even the mountains of California are not comparable to a more northern winter. We're in what's known as the quote-unquote warmest area of Germany.
I love how much sarcasm was built into what you just said.
And I think the thing that's getting me the most is the relative lack of sunlight.
Oh, yes. So what is a book that you really enjoyed this year?
So many. I wrote them down over the last week because of the, international move, I had zero recollection of what I read in January. I had to look back at my Goodreads and be like, oh, that was this year? Because my year was very much two parts, and that was the part like before and after, and there was a good chunk of about 3 months where my brain was entirely moving.
Yes.
Adjusting, and I finished like one book, maybe. So, yeah. But some books that I absolutely loved this year. Freya Marsk, The Marvelous Light, and A Restless Truth. I read both of them twice this year, and just finished the reread of the second one. Still have not gotten my hold for the last book in from the library, and I'm like, I need it to come because I need to know. I need to know what happens. And I heard it's a really spectacular ending to the trilogy. And I love her prose so much, and I love her characters so much, and I'm just very excited about it. And then I also started the year reading Season of Love by Helena Greer. And then I just this week got my hold for Never and Always in and read it. And I think I said in the Discord, like, I spent the first 60% of the book alternating between giggling and crying because of the angst.
It's a very emotional book, right?
It was a whole ride. But I loved every second of it. I was like, this is so great. And my spouse was like, are you okay? And I was like, it's fine. It's fine. There's just a lot of feels.
And it's so weird to be like, no. The fact that I am sobbing over my book is a good thing.
They are also an avid reader, so they understand the I'm just having emotions about this thing that I'm reading. But I'm a little bit more prone to crying than they are.
Yeah, I know how that happens.
Yeah. So other things that I read somewhat obsessively, I devoured Rizdiverse, by Ruby Dixon for something completely different. Ruby Dixon of Ice Planet Barbarian. Notoriety, fame. I love the Ice Planet books. And my friend was like, you should read Grizdiverse because it's like in the same universe, but has different like aliens and kind of a different world set up. And I finally listened to her and then read them all in about a month. All 15 of them or something. They're what I call potato chip books. They are absolutely potato chip books, and then once you stop, you just can't. Like once you eat one, there's no stopping until you're done.
They are
and
absolutely potato chip books, and that is not a bad thing. Like that is not an insult.
No, I loved them so much, and because then I was not done with my Ruby phase, I went back and reread a bunch of the earlier Ice Planet books in between, like her new releases when they come out. So yeah, I finally read Sarah McLean. Which I hadn't somehow. I'm unsure how I like missed it in my great, I think it was a couple years ago that I read like 300 plus books, and a lot of it was reading backlists of people that I'd heard about for years and hadn't really like put a toe into that particular water.
Yep.
But I read all of her Hell's Bells books that have been released so far, and I love a strong female cast, and I love a crew, and I love hijinks, and I love found family, and it's all of those things, and also lots of explosions, which is always a good time. I also, speaking of stuff that turns the historical, that turns the drama up to 11, I heard the recap episode that you did. I forget who it was with, but about the Mackenzie saga.
Oh, that was with Melody from Heaving Bosoms, The Madness of Lordy and Mackenzie.
Yes. So I heard those episodes and I was like, what? I need this. And then proceeded to read all of the books.
Oh boy.
In the whole saga. Like level 11 ridiculous drama.
Yep.
100%. I was big into escapist. Yeah, just like please take my mind off of everything else that's going on.
Yes.
Whether that was, the existential crisis of existence, or you trying to move an entire life
halfway around the world.
Yeah, halfway around the world. Okay, 2 more. My Rogue to Ruin by Erica Ridley. I love the Erica Ridley Winchester series.
Well, you've got hijinks and a heist and a collection of people and banter and all of the things you like are in that series.
Exactly. And good queer rep, good disability rep, which I've been reading more of, especially like for the past couple of years in California. I was working in SPED. And so I started becoming a lot more aware of like, we need really good disability rep because there are definitely things that my students have to deal with that they should not have to deal with because they have enough things going on. And then, something, speaking of queer and found family, Something Wild and Wonderful by Nita Kelly was another one that had me crying because of the angst. A little bit close to home as a queer person with some religious background in there, but also she made a significant reference to Tamara Pierce. And for those who paid attention, my name is Alanna. And yes, I have read and loved Tamara Pierce pretty much since I found her books when I was like 13. I saw that in the book and I was like, oh, my heart. It hit very deep for a lot of reasons. And speaking of Tammy books, they're just like kind of a constant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always reading one of them at some point because I read like 5 different books at a time, depending on how much my brain can focus on one thing at a time. Whenever I'm in a lull, I just go back and reread. They're my comfort books. especially like I like the audiobooks. I listened to the audiobooks after having reread the actual books that I owned. Listening to the audiobooks, I was like, oh, I'm hearing things that I have never heard before, and I like have these books half memorized.
Yep. It's a completely different experience.
So wild. So yeah, Something Wild and Wonderful though was amazing. I love any Alanna rep. That's my list. Just a few.
Just a few.
Just a few.
If you're reading 5 books at the same time, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have a very robust list. So what holiday wishes do you have for people who will be listening this year?
That you would find some light and joy and be able to appreciate it even in the midst of all of everything that is happening worldwide. Be able to carve out that peace and hope for yourself in whatever way you can.
Very, very true. Now, do you have a joke? It is okay if not.
I have a joke.
The way you said that. No. I have a joke.
There are always jokes. I considered looking at the jokes channel for some of the ones that I shared there, but I found one that my friend just sent me.
Oh.
And it's a meme, so it has a picture of medieval tapestry people doing clothes dyeing things, and so of course it's making colored fabrics has historically required good hand-dye coordination.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I love these episodes. I love listening to them. I may or may not have downloaded like 3 of the books that were mentioned in the last one that just aired. So,
as I edit these, I keep adding things to my wish list, and it's just,
Hi, yes, I'm Claudia. I am in Las Vegas, and you'll sometimes see me posting comments as Silence on Birds. I'm very happy to be here.
Yay! I'm so glad you're doing this. Thank you. So please tell me what book you really, really enjoyed this year.
Okay, so the book is called Doña Flor and Her Two Husbands. And so it's like a book from Brazil from like the 70s, I think. And it's also been adapted into the movie. The movie's also fabulous. But basically, this woman has a just very charming rake of a husband who is cheating on her and this whole thing, but she loves him. He dies. And you see her like get remarried, but she still misses him, and he comes back as a ghost. And that's all I'm going to say.
I'm sorry. He comes back as a ghost.
He does. And it is...
Wow.
It is amazing. I highly recommend the movie for sure. The book it's very long, but very good too.
Wow. Okay. How did you discover this?
I'm part of a book club where we like read the book and then watch an adaptation or 2 if there's more. And so the last one we did was The Ring. So I've read the book and watched both the Japanese and then the American remake. And so this one was very unexpected. I was like, oh, what? But you don't realize there's going to be a ghost until he's there. And so before that, it was kind of like, why are we reading this? This is so different from, we usually read like sci-fi in this group. So yeah, loved it.
That sounds really incredible. It also looking at pictures of the movie, it looks so soapy.
Yes, it's so good.
What holiday wishes do you have for people who will be listening?
Yeah, I just hope everybody has a very calm New Year, and with either lots of good books or just good entertainment. You know, this was a hard year for reading for me. Right? Sometimes that happens, and that's okay. You know, I watched Good Omens and Interview with the Vampire. That's basically reading, and those were fabulous.
Oh, you liked you liked Interview with the Vampire? I've heard it's really good.
It's amazing. Absolutely. Highly recommend.
Awesome. That is excellent. I agree. A quiet holiday where you can consume stories in whatever media works for you seems ideal. Thank you so much for doing this. It's really, really fun to connect with everybody. And it's really nice to see the people who are usually just listening to me talk into my microphone. So thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you for doing it. It's so fun.
It is super fun. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you very, very much to Amanda, GarlicKnitter, Alanna, and Claudia for connecting with me. It is seriously such a joy to do these, and I'm honored when I see another person has signed up to talk to me. So thank you. I also want to say thank you to Milo T. Wiggins, because I asked for reviews because all of my Apple reviews had disappeared, and all of y'all showed up for me in such an amazing way. Thank you. Milo titled their review, quote, "Witty, charming, funny safaris to Bonetown." And I can't top that. It's so perfect. Milo wrote, "Sarah Wendell and Amanda are smart and funny, as are nearly all of the writers and others who guest on the podcast. Sometimes they're making fun of a cover or a trope, but they take each novel seriously, which is courteous and makes everything funnier. Highly recommended for romance aficionados, newcomers, pop culture scholars, and anyone who's up for a terrific time." Thank you. I cannot top witty, charming, funny safaris to Bonetown. That I might have to make swag of that. It's just so perfect. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. It really helps the show. I end each week with a terrible joke, and this week is no exception. This week, the joke is from Bull, and Bull has some exciting movie news. Apparently, there's going to be a superhero mashup of Batman and Groot. Did you know this? Yeah. There's a superhero movie coming out with a mashup of Batman and Groot. His secret identity name is Spruce Wayne. Please, somebody name their Christmas tree Spruce Wayne some year. A little Batman hat on the top. That would be so amazing. Thank you, Bull. On behalf of everyone here, we wish you the very best of reading. Have a wonderful new year, and we will see you back here next week. Smart Podcast Trashy Books is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find outstanding podcasts to subscribe to at frolic.media/podcasts. Spruce Wayne.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
This is Christopher Kimball from Milk Street Radio. Our show covers everything and anything in the world of food, and this holiday season, we're exploring a Welsh tradition that involves
horses' skulls, toffee making, strange Celtic folklore.
We go to Belgium for a lesson on gingerbread and waffles.
It always frustrates me because there is no Belgian waffle. We have thick waffles, thin waffles, brittle waffles, soft waffles. I mean, there's a waffle for every occasion, basically.
And we learn about hot drinks with names like
Huggle My Buff or Huckle My Butt.
Join us for recipes and stories this holiday season on Milk Street Radio, wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.